Shivering with pain, he thinks to himself, my seal, what was he talking about? Then in a panic, he notices that he is linked with the hearts of those around him. Everyone within his close proximity was linked with him. Then his shocking pain resonated within his chest, he spat out blood. Sunghoon, feeling that something was amiss, quickly turned to look at Giju, who was kneeling on the ground, and quickly called his name in concern. Then rushing over, he asks Giju if he's alright. Both Brunhart and El calls out to their master in concern and asks what's wrong. Lu, with concern in his voice, tells his master that just now, but is unable to finish his words. As Giju, clutching his chest, still pants heavily, trying to get himself under control. Then thinks a link was just established in an instant, with everyone here. Among the crowd, a voice calls his name, and he looks up to find Yubin looking at him in concern. She walks up to him and asks, what's wrong, do you feel unwell? Getting up to his feet, he tells her that he's alright, he was just feeling a little unwell for a moment. Then asks, where's the advisor, is she doing well? Taken aback for a moment, she says, pardon, oh you mean grandma, she was just saying that she'll have to meet you soon. Then puzzled, he asks meet me, to which she replies, yes, but she doesn't know the details, but she said that the seal is in danger. Which shocked him. Sometime later in an office building, Giju is standing there dumbfounded, saying, it can't be, that this person is, as he stares at the two people before him. With a nervous smile, Yubin introduces the person in the seat as Advisor Lim Haisuk, and the white-haired advisor says, what took you so long? I asked you to come look for me. He asks, but your appearance, and she replies, oh this, I put on some good makeup, and he states incredulously, but that doesn't look like something that makeup can do though. To which she tells him that she was only kidding, this is just her ability, but don't ask her about the details, and he just replies alright. Then as Yubin goes to prepare some tea for them, the advisor tells her that she would like to drink tea that's been brewed for a longer period of time, say about an hour. Smiling nervously, she replies okay, thinking she guessed they'll be talking about something important. Then as the door closes behind Yubin, the advisor gets up from her seat and tells Giju, let's get started immediately. As she approaches him, he nervously says, pardon, start what exactly? Pointing her fingers towards him, she declares firmly that she'll just be taking a look at his condition. And she wasn't going to eat him, so he shouldn't be scared. As the advisor placed her fingers on his forehead, her mental state started to fade to black. She felt the darkness that she had previously felt before. But she couldn't see the end of this, questioning was this his inner world? She'll just go a little further, and as she sent her consciousness out further and further, she couldn't see the end of it at all, until she came out of her trance with a sudden scream. Then pointing her finger at him asks, who the hell are you? Giju was taken aback by this and said pardon, even his egos were all puzzled by this behavior. As she came back to her senses, she says the seal, it's been lifted. And within the gate, it was only at the extent of a crack, but now there might be no way to deal with it. Then she nervously thought that no, there's a way. Then grabbing his wrist, she told him to come sit quickly since they were in a rush. Panicking at this, Giju says wait a minute, shouldn't she tell him what's going on first, while Lu remarks what a rash old lady, and El asks should she take care of this advisor, while Brunhart comments that El sounds so scary. The advisor just says there's no time for her to explain things, it must be done right away no matter what. Then turning to look at him directly and says, about the chaos of his, as he slowly loses his consciousness. As time passes, Giju suddenly wakes up. As he sits up on the couch, he asks her, did I lose consciousness just now, and she replies, you're up, huh? He suddenly notices the change in her appearance, and is momentarily at a loss for words. The old advisor sitting with her hands in front of her says, I dealt with it somehow, but it's just a temporary solution. Giju asks about her appearance, but she tells him not to worry about it, she's simply a little tired. After a moment of silence, he asks her, please talk to me, what on earth is this seal, and that chaos you were talking about? She replies, I'm sorry but I can't tell you right now, since I'm bound by a restriction of the tower. Then pointing to her head, she tells him, I'm referring to the penalty, I just found out after taking a look at your body, but you still haven't crossed the 50th floor right? To think you're still this strong despite that, it's hard to believe, and Giju could only reply with ah. She continues to say, well, I'm sure you'll feel down if you just return like this, so I'll just explain a little, for example the information about your father. At these words Giju becomes shocked, thinking father. He has close to zero memories of him, and the only thing he remembers is something like being hugged by him when he was very young. His father's hand looked huge, and his embrace felt warm. But his eyes looked like he wanted to kill me. The old advisor tells him that his codename is Kronos, and he was the very first mercenary, and also the one responsible for setting up the mercenary system. That person was his father Kim Sejin. But Giju interrupts her story and says wait a minute, which puzzles her. He continues to ask, so you're saying that you are acquainted with my father? Half closing her eyes, she replies you're asking an unnecessary question, are you afraid of listening to people talking about your father? And Giju just sits there in silence, unable to reply and remembering the eyes of his father. Then waving her hand, as if to disregard the issue, she just says forget it then, it's not like I don't understand why you feel that way. Even if I try to tell you some things now, there's a restriction to what I can tell you, and I won't be able to answer your questions either. So come look for me again after you pass the 50th floor. After saying all this, she gets up from her seat, and as she walks away tells him I'll tell you the rest at that time. Then remembering something, she tells him send my greetings to your mother, since I wasn't able to greet her the last time at the hospital, because she didn't seem to be in a good condition. Giju nervously asks the hospital, then recalls his memory of meeting an old lady with his sister at the hospital. Back then the old lady warned him about various energies clashing within his body, and that he needed to be very careful not to lose himself. Sometime later as he was driving back home, to think that he didn't know that the grandmother that he saw in the hospital back then turns out to be advisor Lam. Lu remarks, wouldn't it be more strange if you had been able to recognize her instead, since both her appearance and energy feels totally different from back then. It's not like you were capable of distinguishing energies previously, and I was still in a weakened state as well. And Giju guessed that's true. El asks her master how's your body, and Giju replies I'm not sure but I do feel a certain sense of stability. Lu explains that it feels like there's another seal that's been placed on top of the broken seal, and he doesn't know how it was done. But what's important isn't what that old lady did, but rather what is being sealed within him right now. Giju thinks about the image of his demonic side that manifested while fighting Bodhis, and Lu says that it's most likely that, I'm guessing this based on what she said, but there's a high chance that you already had that seal thing from the very start. El comments that Lu's descent was only the reason for the seal's crack, but it seems the seal itself was there from the very beginning. But Giju thought that he felt Lu's energy, and at the same time he also felt El's energy as well. This revelation shocked both Lu and El. He recalled the old advisor mentioning something about chaos, but was interrupted from his thoughts as Brunhard asks what about me, did you not feel my energy? And Giju just nervously laughed and said about that. And El told Brunhard that it hasn't been long since he was born, so it's highly unlikely that he would have any connections to the seal, while Lu told him to know your place kiddo. As the car came to a stop, Sunghoon tells Giju that they have arrived. In front of the Player Association building, Sunghoon tells him I'll be right there once I park the car. So please go on ahead first. Inside the intensive care unit, Sequa was hooked up to a ventilator and remains in a coma still. As they watch from behind a glass barrier, Giju asks there's been no change ever since he got out of the gate, to which Sunghoon replies yes, his condition didn't really worsen but it didn't improve either, even the association's medical personnel don't really know what's causing this. Giju thinks he knows the cause, since he got the information from his conversation with Bodhis. Lu recommends to him we need to take a look at his vessel first. I don't know if you'd be able to cure him, but if there's anyone who could do it, it'd probably be you. Giju thinks that right, but before that, he asks Sunghoon, you said all the surveillance cameras here are turned off, right? To which Sunghoon replies yes, we did turn it off, but it'll only be for a short time. Since the association chairman helped with this, it could become a problem if we turn it off for too long. Giju says in that case, his left hand turns into gauntlets, as he reaches his hand to an area in front of him with determined eyes. As he grips the neck of an invisible person, and slams it to the ground with a powerful force. Sunghoon stares at this in shock, and Giju's angry eyes focuses on the person lying on the ground. Once the dust starts to settle, Giju says long time no see, and asks what are you doing here, player paparazzi Go Hyungcheol. The man who's deeply involved in the Iron Guild incident, and a player paparazzi who was a former high ranker. He didn't know this previously because he was still new to these things, but now he know for sure. This guy has demonic eyes. Giju asks him, what is your purpose for infiltrating this place? Why do you have demonic eyes? Are you a demon? Rather than trying to answer, Hyungcheol tried to struggle out of Giju's grip without much success. Giju continued to bombard him with questions like, how are you related to Andras? Why are you looking for Sequa? However, Hyungcheol was starting to show the whites of his eyes, as he continued to struggle against Giju's one-handed chokehold. Losing his patience, Giju screamed at him, answer me, but he had difficulty speaking before passing out. Giju just looked at him dumbfounded, wondering what just happened. Then El told him that even a player will be knocked out cold if they're strangled, and Lu rebuked him, saying you should have asked him in a way such that he could answer you right. Unable to defend his actions, he says, but still, I didn't know a former high ranker would faint so easily, while Sunghoon in the back is lamenting about the damage to the floor. Lu tells him, I think there's a need for you to realize just how much stronger you've become, while Brunhart cheers that his master is so freaking strong. Looking at the unconscious paparazzi, Giju asks, what should I do then? Should I feed him a potion to wake him up? While Sunghoon asks, he's not dead, right? Lu recommends putting him into the gate first. Even if we want to interrogate him, that'll be after we see how Sequa is doing first, but Giju asks, wouldn't that be dangerous? He'll definitely go on a rampage after he wakes up though. However, Lu reminds him, what are you worried about? You have your subordinates, and while Bodhi's has gotten weaker, he is still one of the archdemons. And if that old man is determined to restrain someone, most people wouldn't be able to move even if they wanted to. Thinking about this, Giju wonders, is that so? Then let's do that for now, and opens his gate. Later he enters Sequa's room, and stands beside him. After a moment, he puts his hands on Sequa's forehead. Then closing his eyes, he begins to enter Sequa's vessel. He thinks back to his conversation with Bodhi's, who tells him that while Sequa's body hasn't been stolen, they're almost on the verge of succeeding. If he's still unable to wake up, then it's likely because of the demonic energy that is still within his vessel, along with a part of the power of Paimon's legacy. Upon enter Sequa's vessel, he finds himself on a frozen wasteland, and thinks it's totally different from his own. Lu tells him it's natural for it to be different, while El tells him, he is special after all. As Giju walks within the frozen wasteland, he thinks that Bodhi said that there's probably demonic energy in his vessel, so he just has to take a look, and slowly closes his eyes to focus. Lu warns him to be careful. It's not an easy task to take a look within another's vessel. If something goes wrong, your consciousness could get mixed with Sequa's. After telling Lu that he got it, he let his consciousness wander outward. After some time, he finds it strange to see the shape of this vessel to be a ball. Since his own vessel's shape and vastness felt unknown, but with Sequa's vessel, he can tell some of these things. Lu reminded him, just know that you're the one who's strange here, and Sequa is the normal one. But more importantly, did you find it? Giju replies, yeah, the demonic energy that Bodhi's had planted in Paimon's legacy. The red flames with demonic energy around it was Paimon's legacy, or according to Lu more accurately, it's a part of it. Then looking at the flames, Giju wonders what should they do now, and Lu answers that it's clear what they need to do. First remove the demonic energy, and retrieve Paimon's legacy, and El finishes by saying, then use the power of life at the same time to help restore the damaged parts of the vessel. Giju thinks to himself that he can control demonic energy since he's linked to various demons and undead, but he's never tried to control it properly before. He also has no idea on how he should control Paimon's legacy, while using the power of life simultaneously to restore the damaged parts of the vessel. And according to the warning by Lu, who told him if he makes any mistakes, he could damage his consciousness. Just by taking a look at Sequa's vessel is already putting a strain on him, so how can he do all of that in a situation like this? Waking him from his thoughts, El tells him that she'll help. Giju asks what and how, and Lu replies, I see, that would work. He tells Giju to split up the tasks, since El is the only other being who can control both demonic energy and the power of life like him. He just needs to concentrate, and El will take care of the rest somehow, and Giju quickly agrees. Then approaching closer to the flame with his hand outstretched to it, he tells El that he is counting on her. He closes his eyes and starts to concentrate, and El's ring starts to glow golden in his hands. Then a shadowy image of El appears next to him, and they both start to focus their powers. Meanwhile, inside the gate, the old man was staring intensely at something while rubbing his beard. He says that without Paimon's legacy, I guess it'd be impossible to make Lu's physical body. Before him stands a statue of a man. The close-up of the face looks very similar to the boss that was found on the 30th floor of the tower. Subscribe to the channel for the next part. Thank you for watching, until next time.